Hello everybody. Welcome to today's video. Well, today is Collei's birthday. She's the character from Genshin Impact. She's a Dendro character and her backstory is so tragic, and she's just a character that makes me just want to protect her. She's absolutely adorable. So today in this time lapse, we're going to be drawing her for her birthday. Now, I could have drawn her in several different poses, but I said this was the most appropriate. In my mind, I had it thinking like she was looking over either a list that Tignari gave her to go and do and collect, and we'll have a spot on it talking about her going out for research. But I think this is going to be a pretty good one. I like how the end product turned out, and let me know in the comments how you feel about it as well. So we're starting out with our base sketch, the little rough sketch that you saw before, and now we're going into the semi-more refined sketch. I will say I had some difficulty with some of her smaller designs in the layout and trying to make sure it kind of lays flat and not like awkward. It's really hard sometimes with perspective, especially of objects that aren't just like your standard shapes. You'll see that I end up moving her necklace a couple of times. I'm actually surprised I didn't have more issue with the notepad, but I kind of kept the notepad a little bit more simple than what's in the image. And once again, the image that I'm using, of course, is the one in the reference JPEG window I have, and then the one on the top left is a reference I found off of Pinterest when I was looking for Collei for some good color variations. And then the other one's actually a picture that I took in-game because I wanted more of a Sumeru background, but I didn't want just strictly like all the trees and everything. I still wanted some sky and some mountains, and at first I was going to put her closer towards the desert. I'm like, Collei is more in the greener part of Sumeru. Sumeru is humongous. Has anybody explored all of Sumeru yet? Man, it's unreal how much it is out there. I did get all the adventure stuff leveled up, so I have got officially all the wings of all the areas that we have so far. I'm looking forward to the next few that's supposed to come up. I'm just interested to figure out more about the storyline of this one. Not only am I interested with the Honkai Star Rail storyline, but also with the Genshin Impact. Of course, I've been playing Genshin now for almost coming up a year, and the storyline is unreal. About the traveler trying to find their sibling and figure out what happened to them, and then you learn about all of the history of Tibet and all that goes on there. And I'm just trying not to do any spoilers. If you haven't played Genshin Impact, I highly encourage you to, and save all your primogens. Once again, another thing that I learned a little too late after C6ing my wonder to save my primogens. Now, whenever I have people that start playing Genshin, I say, save all your primogens, go through all the characters, see which ones you really want, and wait for the banners. Don't go all gung-ho like I did. So we're still working on the sketch. As I had mentioned before, I do a couple of variations of sketches. We did the base sketch. I got rid of that layer. And then I'm doing more refined sketch on top of this one. I still find it funny I do such a refined sketch, although I end up coloring over the sketch. I like the idea of some of the sketch coming through, but then sometimes I don't really like working with the sketch and our line art part of it. I don't know why it is that some things on line art I really, really like, but then other things I'm like, it don't look the best. Like the sketch looks way better. But I know a lot of it has to do with the line weight variations, and it would just require a lot of practice. But I hope everybody's doing well, and that, let's see, by this point in time, with Honkai Star Rail, there is a new banner up, so I hope all your pulls and wishes go as you want. I think it's going to be, if I'm not mistaken, I think it said it was going to be Topaz and Robin on it. I'm not 100% for sure, but I may pull for Robin. She seems really cool. Okay, now we're working on the background, so this is where I brought in more of the Sumeru blue skies and part of the greenery as well. And once again, we do the background first because it can affect the base colors of your drawing. You could draw something thinking that it's actually a light orange skin tone, and it's really not. It ends up being like more yellow or blue or a completely saturated out color. So I did part of the skin first, and then I kept looking at it. I'm like, something still felt off. It still felt like it wasn't, I don't know, like the saturation was off. So then I was like, well, let me go and refine the background some more. So I refined this background quite a bit, and then I ended up filling in the main base layer. I just kept finagling with this background. I think a majority of the video, let's see, let me look back and see how long it actually took me for this drawing process. I usually do pretty good between a 4 to 7 hour, which I don't feel like I honestly am taking that long, really, like pencil or Apple Pencil to the iPad. Let's see. Sorry for any extra noises you hear in the background, by the way. I try to inform others that I'm filming, but that doesn't always happen to my benefit, it seems like. So I'm looking back on the statistics tab on the tracked timing, and it says track time is 6 hours and 58 minutes. So honestly, like if it counts by the time that the screen is open, then I probably have stared at the screen more so than anything. So it's maybe less than that. But if it is truly 6 hours, 58 minutes, I've taken my hand to that Apple iPad. I'm like, oh my word. So we do the base colors, and then I go and put in the base, not really fully rendering, but to give it a good starter point for rendering. And then I go from there working on the hair. So I kind of now I will say I did do a color select from the image that you see in the reference tab, but my reasoning for color selecting is because I didn't know if Collei's hair would be more on the warmer side or the cooler side. But then once I selected it, and then I moved it a little bit because it was like way too saturated, and then dulled it down a little bit, and I went over the skin part, and I'll have to show you all in one of my upcoming drawings how I select certain colors. But you have to, in order for the hair to not stand out like it's a wig on top, and for it to halfway kind of blend in and make sense with the face, you have to use some of the skin color along with the hair color, and then you just select the color in the midway between that. And it really does help whenever you put some lighter colors towards the hair that comes to the face. It just helps it come together a little bit more. Now I will say I have not perfected this at all, and I do need a lot more practice with it, but I feel like I'm heading in the right direction. And these Genshin characters really make me think and go outside the box the majority of the time. So, still working on getting these base colors down. And then once I get all these base colors down, I figure out which way this lighting is supposed to go, because I did partly the lighting from whenever she's standing, like in the lower image, the lighting, the way it hit on her face in the game, and then also part of the lighting, the way the other image has it. So I kind of merged the two. Which, of course, she's not standing in any shade or anything. So really the only shade that will come from whenever her hair or her face is turned. So then you see I got the little map halfway written out. So I was going to do the map like Tignari up in the corner doing a little peace sign. And then her figuring out where she's supposed to go on the map. Because I just imagine him writing up, okay, go by this, past this tree, and then you'll see this little mushroom hanging out. And you just go past it. And then she'll be looking at it like, where in the world am I at? I have no clue where Tignari wants me to go. But then I end up doing more like an obsession level completion list instead, which still works out. So now we're doing some highlighting. So I did use the add layer, and at first it did do it a couple of times on the add layer at the 100% opacity. And because I wanted the colors to stand out more, and then I went back over with a multiply layer as well to kind of pull in a different definition. Now I could have just turned down the opacity on my brush, but I just wanted a more quicker route, and I kind of just blobbed in some areas that needed the darker colors. Then I worked on refining the hair piece, and then towards the end is where I start refining more on the necklace and the shirt. Even though her design is not too complicated, it's the small minute things that you really have to pay attention to on hers. So is everybody doing well in their Genshin adventures? if you are playing Genshin, let me know who your favorite character is in the comments. There's so many of them that, honestly, if it wasn't for the Wanderer, I would have to say that, as far as male characters, it would be Zhongli would be my favorite, of course. He's the Geo daddy of Genshin, so. And then as far as female characters, I would have to go with, I think I'd have to go to thinking about Barbara. Now, starting out in the game, Noelle was my girl. She was the one that was helping me through everything in the game. And I still like Noelle, but after I got Zhongli, the shield on him I was just like, I can't do any better than this one. This is a good shield, and I really leveled him up. Now, needless to say, I got everybody else leveled up too, but if I had to choose, it would be Zhongli and Barbara. So I got the Hydro and the Geo. Of course, recently I got Arlecchino. I still need to figure out how to use her, but she is pretty amazing as well. I still need to work on getting her weapon, but I have a feeling I'm not going to be able to get it this banner. I may just work on getting characters and then focus on weapons afterwards. I can talk forever about these games. They're just fantastic games, and the character design is amazing. The scenery in it is just phenomenal. It just makes me really just want to study the scenery sometimes, which I will probably one day do a scenery study. So back to the drawing. I ended up going back to the background, working on it a little bit, and coming back to the main part of her. Now, earlier whenever I was talking about the multiply layer, I did put another multiply layer on, as you see, but what I did, I selected the lighter color and kind of went more saturated on it, and then went over the majority of the hair, because Collei's hair is very, very green. Like, there's no ombre green or anything. Like, it is straight up green, and it's not a dull green either. It's very, very bright. So I tried to, even though I didn't want it super bright, I still wanted it to be kind of mellowed out a little bit. But I did add some highlights at some point in here in order to reflect more so of her being out in the sun. And then, as you see, I flip back and forth between canvases. As I mentioned before, I like to group my starter to where I'll have my background, my base color, and base sketch, all that together, and flatten it except for the background. Kind of leave the background on its own, and then I'll duplicate that. And I'll always go back and forth to see where I have come from to where I am, because I'm like, oh my gosh, is this looking anywhere near the direction that it needs to look? And then I'll take off the layer I'm working on and look at the one underneath. I'm like, oh, whoa. I'm like, yeah, it's going the right way. It's always good to have that reminder in the background. So here I ended up actually putting a multiply layer on top of the background to give it more bluer shade. And then I try to mess with some of the gradient maps. I'm not 100% for sure on how well those work, but I definitely prefer using the soft light layer and just duplicating it and lowering the opacity of that. It increases the saturations of some of your colors and really defines a lot of it. Let's see where we're at now on here. I think I'm still working on the jewelry part, because that it did take me, I would say, a couple of hours at least to refine her necklace and the chest piece, and I work on her little arm gauntlets a little bit, but I try not to overdo it because it's not like my primary focus. My focus was mainly her face and her chest area, honestly, because that's where the most detail I've spent on the strong piece at. So we're almost at the completion of this video. Hopefully everybody's doing well and you're enjoying these videos as well, to see the process and to talk about Genshin and other Hoyoverse ideas and whatnot. See how that just flashed? I was just looking at the in-between. And then I decided to add some leaves, like blowing in the wind, because I noticed that in Sumeru, in the forest Sumeru, that there is a lot of leaves that just like randomly fly. So I said that'd be interesting to have. And then this is where I redid the little piece of paper that she has. So I did ascension levels, and then what little artifacts that she has. And I have on there angry chicken, because it does look like an angry chicken that she had to fight to get that talon. we have reached the end. Here's the final piece. I hope you've enjoyed this little recap and that everybody does well. So until next time, bye bye.